Everybody, so this is going to be the first video in a series. It's a community project kind of thing. We will be discussing Kraven's Last Hunt. There's 6 of us doing this. Myself, excuse me, Wednesday Serial, 64-page special by the hoary host of Hagarth, Scott X1307, excuse me, and Howler Mouse. If everything goes off as planned, the next video in this series will be done by Wednesday Serial, and that will be up tomorrow. And then da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So, for the next 6 days, you guys all get to bask in the glow of some awesome people talking about an awesome book. Or books. It depends on the format that you've purchased this. Okay? I had intended on pulling out all of my peripheral material on this particular subject. Kraven's Last Hunt is one of my favorite stories. I own multiple copies of the issues. I tracked down the first appearances of all of the characters in the story. I have a lot of their peripheral stuff. You know, I was going to pull all that out and just like oversaturate the video. Excuse me. And just pound in as much geeky goodness as I could. But I'm not quite sure what everybody else has planned, so I'm going to keep it very simple, very direct and straightforward. Not a lot of inflection or this happened here and this happened here. Maybe just a little, maybe. But I have no notes. I have this pen, and I wrote a number on the side of my hand right here. That's it. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm going with. And I have coffee. I will interject a little bit. Okay, here we go. Now this is the trade. The first issue of this was Web of Spider-Man 1930, or well, Web of Spider-Man 31. That's it from my notes. That's all I got. Okay, now let's see. I regard this as one of the best Spider-Man stories. If you go on Wikipedia and you look it up, there's an interesting thing where J.M. DeMatteis, the writer, excuse me, was talking about this was originally pitched as a Wonder Man story. And then Marvel said no, so he went to DC with it. And then DC said no, because it kind of has the same themes as The Killing Joke. That's what they said, which was being released at the time. This for some perspective. I don't know. I don't see a lot of similarity in this material between this and The Killing Joke. And I totally couldn't see this done with Wonder Man. And I at one time was a huge West Coast Defenders fan. But in this story, Kraven, this is Kraven, his first appearance was Amazing Spider-Man 15. I was going to pull that out, I'm not, so, okay. It is what it is. He's a big game hunter, villain, stronger than the average person, faster than the average person. He takes herbs and potions and holistic kind of medicine stuff to increase his strength and stamina, and he's a little bit older than he looks. Excuse me. He's dying. So, in an attempt to get closure for what he considers to be a failure, one of his many failures, there's a lot of regret in regards to Kraven in this issue. Web of Spider-Man 31, the first chapter of Kraven's Last Hunt. I like the trade because in the trade, the covers are the original pencils from the books. And Mike Zeck's art is amazing, particularly when it's inked by Bob McLeod. But it's just super cool to see the original pencils. It's mind-blowingly cool for me, at least. Okay, so Kraven is sick. He's dying. He's come to terms with that. So, in an attempt to redeem himself for a failure, a self-perceived failure. He decides he's going to beat Spider-Man. And not just like knock him down and point and laugh and go, ha ha, I beat you. He's going to become better than Spider-Man. He's going to remove Spider-Man from the equation and provide definitive proof that he is better than Spider-Man. I'm not going to get much into how he does that because that's someone else's issue and I'm super jealous. But I'm going to watch it. I'm going to be the first one. Anyway. In this, we'll flip through it together. There is a little backstory about okay, here you go, Kraven. There's a little backstory about his family in Russia and how he thought it was a failure that Russia fell and that the political system of Russia didn't work out. He felt dishonored, like it was a blight on his name. They go on to discuss how the herbs and the potions he is taking no longer have the same effect. And he knows his days are ending, but he is persistent to achieve one last goal. And then we cut to Spider-Man. Spider-Man is attending the funeral for a friend, not a friend, someone he knew, supporting character, thug. Excuse me, he's just trying to do the right thing. And he starts hearing this noise. He says it sounds like jungle drums. And the interesting thing about this era in particular of comics is if an event happened 8 months ago in a comic, they still somewhat address it. You don't see a lot of that. For example, in this, I think part of the depression of Peter Parker is related back to when Ned Leeds died. Ned Leeds was a friend of his. They worked at the Bugle together. He ends up becoming Hobgoblin at one point. Maybe Hobgoblin. But he dies in the Spider-Man Wolverine one-shot. Excuse me, Spider-Man versus Wolverine one-shot. And I think there's still some residual, loss and loneliness, and he's missing his friend. Okay. And shortly before this happens, Web of Spider-Man 31, Peter Parker and Mary Jane were married, which was kind of a big deal too. So, Kraven, in an attempt to beat the spider, starts to consume the spider. Not Peter Parker, just spiders in general. And they'll get back to this a little bit later. This is him pushing himself so he can defeat Spider-Man. He has a plan. He goes after Spider-Man. They have their residual not residual, but their obligatory fight, snarky comment back and forth. Spider-Man is caught in a net, just like he always is when they fight. And then Kraven walks up with a gun. Spider-Man's like, this isn't how you work. This isn't your style. And it's not. He usually doesn't carry a gun. Bam. Everything goes black. Spider-Man in the coffin. Some great storytelling, too. And unless I am mistaken, there's a little bit of foreshadowing in this scene. No, not this one, the next one. Okay. And the book ends, Spider-Man buried. I'm going to read all of this again. I've read this twice already today in preparation of this video. And as soon as I'm done here, which will be here directly, I will reread this. This is by far one of my favorite comic stories. About a year ago, I started doing a series based on this. It was a little bit more rambly. I was a lot more nervous then than I am now doing YouTube videos. But this was a year ago. I did 2 videos, one on the first chapter and one on the second chapter. And compared to what kind of the number of views I was getting back then, it just nobody was interested. And the people that were interested were, they've all gone on and done other things. 4 of them are even no longer on YouTube. So this is something I've been wanting to do for like a year. So to have my friends on YouTube get into it as well, I think that's really cool. But I'm not turning this all about me. This is I want to say thank you to everybody who's participating. I want to say thank you to everybody who watches. This is thanks. Tomorrow, Wednesday cereal. I'll leave a link. Okay.